Welcome to Buildings and Beyond,
the podcast that explores how we can create a more sustainable built environment
by focusing on efficiency, accessibility, and health.
I'm Rob Aldrich.
And I'm Kelly Westby.
In this episode, I talked with Stephen Winter, the one and only. We've been talking about having Stephen on for quite a while, and we asked him if there was a topic that he really wanted to talk about. He started our company, Stephen Winter Associates, back in 1972. He's been at this quite a while. He's seen a lot of trends and fads in the building industry, and he's a pretty good prognosticator. But he didn't want to talk about any of that. He wanted to talk about people, about camaraderie and community in the workplace. So this episode is pretty different than others we've done before. Before we get into it, here's a quick announcement from Dylan about NESE's upcoming Building Energy Conference.
Hello, everyone. This is Dylan Martello, co-producer of Buildings and Beyond and a Passive House consultant here at Stephen Winter Associates. I just wanted to let you all know about my upcoming session on May 7th at the Building Energy Boston Conference. I will be speaking with my colleague Nicole Ceci about decarbonizing domestic water heating in multifamily buildings. You can also catch some other great presentations from industry experts, including sessions by Lois Arena and Lauren Hildebrand of SWA. The conference, which is happening virtually from May 5th to May 7th, is presented by the Northeast Sustainable Energy Association, or NESE. NESE has become a staple for professionals and practitioners in the fields of high-performance building, energy efficiency, and renewable energy. Visit nese.org, that's NESEA.org, for more info. We hope to see you there.
There's no question that COVID inspired Stephen's choice of a topic for this episode.
Well, it totally is because of COVID.
Throughout our conversation, Stephen refers a few times to our company principles. A few years ago, because the company has kept growing steadily, it was determined that it would behoove us to formalize principles that guide our work and guide our company. I'll mention them very briefly here. Be visionary, take ownership, think holistically, improve the built environment, and last but not least,
foster camaraderie or camaraderie. Engage with one another to build community. And this is an important part of our foundation, and it's something we have been practicing, but it's a nebulous thing that's out there. It lives out there, and I thought it might be something worth spending a few minutes talking about.
Has that been really part of your thinking going way back? I mean, starting the company, building the company, just good relationships with colleagues?
It's always been that way. We've always been, from day one, I and the staff, which were just one or two to start with and then grew over time, we've always been friends, in addition to being colleagues.
So does it happen automatically? I mean, do you, how much, over the years, how much thought do you give when you're hiring, when you're recruiting? Do you pick people based on, I'd really like to, I think I'd really like this person, like to work with this person, like to hang out with this person. Can you pick people? Is that something that you can judge when you're hiring, when you're building a team?
Well, current HR policy may not agree with this, but the simplest answer is yes. Part of the evaluation of an individual, when I was hiring people, I was doing the interviewing, did include an element of their character that was based on how likable they are. It seemed to me that if an individual, like I liked you when we were interviewing, and it seems to me that if I found you likable, clients would find you likable. And in my experience, companies, potential clients, they don't hire us only for the technical capabilities that we have. They hire us as people. They hire us because of the people we are and who we are as individuals and characters.
And how about clients? I mean, we've all worked with all kinds of clients over the years. Some you love to work with, some you dread just making a simple phone call. It's like, oh my God, I got to talk to this person again. Do you pick clients based on good working relationships?
There's no question about it.
Okay.
Not only the one-on-one business relationship where we're undertaking contractual work, but also business relationships at trade shows and conferences. There's the socializing aspect of those gatherings leads to closer and closer ties and relationships with those individuals, even with competitors.
Yeah, I've had a hard time getting excited for virtual conferences. And I think, some of this is your influence. When I started working for you, I'd go to conferences and I'd just go to all the sessions. If there was a session happening, I was sitting in the seat watching, listening to whoever was talking. Now I might go to one or two sessions, and I'm on the trade show, and I'm talking to vendors, I'm talking to people, I'm talking to colleagues, I'm talking to competitors, like you say, and that, to me, I think you've taught me, that's the value. That's where not only do you develop business relationships and generate business, but that's how I learn. That's how I learn way more just talking to people on the trade show floor than sitting in a seat at a session. Usually.
The NESI conferences that we went to for, decades is a case in point. You and I were both at those things, and look at the relationships that have come out of that. We've hired people as a result of those relationships. We've gotten
our CEO, I believe.
Yes. and you couldn't do that virtually. But there's an element of camaraderie that resulted in those hirings and in those businesses won and lost. It does stem in some measurable part to the fact that we are comrades with those people that we mix with.
One of the other things that I was chewing on was that so many, people that work at SWA are almost uniformly pretty passionate about buildings, about certain aspects of buildings, good buildings, resilient, accessible, healthy, etc. Is that, how do you, I think that contributes to the community, to the camaraderie. Do you agree? And even if you don't agree, how do you find people, how do you attract people that really are interested and I would say passionate? A lot of us are pretty passionate about our work.
So, okay, a lot of people out there in the world are passionate about their work. In our shop, they're also passionate about their work. That's cool, that's good. They're passionate about the work. But camaraderie means going one step further, that they are collaborating in their passion, that they are like holding hands intellectually in pursuing their passion. And at the same time, they are being friendly to each other, supportive to each other, planning things with each other that are social as well as business-oriented. So it's passion plus, passion for the work plus a feeling of collegiality or friendliness towards one another. That's the camaraderie part.
But don't you think they go together to a certain degree?
Well, maybe in our shop, I hope that it happens, but you can have a dysfunctional company where individuals hate their job and they're not passionate about their profession, but they have fun together. They have camaraderie.
Well, maybe they have camaraderie after work, but not during work.
No, maybe not. But okay, let's agree to disagree. I don't think that necessarily passion for a professional pursuit necessarily equates to camaraderie with each other. You know, we can talk about that. Like the three of us have been out socially. We've been at events where it's a birthday party for someone in the office, or it's or we have empathy for each other when bad things happen and support for each other. But that doesn't tie into the fact that you and I are passionate about the work that we do. It sort of maybe kind of relates, but it's not a one-to-one, not a one-to-one relationship.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, thinking about this topic, I mean, when I started, I was, and I remain just really so appreciative of just amazing expertise that we have at Stephen Winter Associates. You know, technical expertise. People know about buildings. It's phenomenal. And it used to be, if I ever wanted to know, before COVID, when I could walk down the hall and ask people, if I had a question about buildings, I'd walk down the hall and ask somebody about it. You know, I wouldn't Google it. I'd walk down the hall and ask somebody about whatever I was interested in. And it occurs to me, it's certainly, you know, shared interests, shared passions. This certainly doesn't equate to camaraderie, for sure. I mean, you can have people that are in the same field that absolutely despise each other. Yeah. We've all read, you know, Tesla Edison kind of thing, or, you know, something extreme like that. But like an example, like I've asked so many people when I'm doing home improvements to my own home, I'll ask experts in our shop about insulation details or things like that. And not only do we have like leaders in the field, but people that are just genuinely happy to help, just friendly and happy to help. It seems like it goes together. Yeah, the happy to help part, as I see it, fits into the camaraderie. But just remember, the definition that I'm trying to come back to is that camaraderie is a feeling of friendliness, goodwill, and familiarity among people in a group. That doesn't mean like top of their profession. It doesn't mean really smart. It means, you know, friendly, you know, comrades, buddies. I get it. All right, it's interesting. I was thinking that shared interests and passions can lead to increased camaraderie, but it sounds like you don't see that big a connection. We can go back to the framers of the Constitution. I was not there when the august group met to determine what our company principles should be, but they came up with fostering camaraderie, and how they built on that, how they determined what that would be, is something I'm not privy to. That the wording they came up with was engage with one another to build community, and our community is our company, and I guess, but the excellence, the shared excellence, doesn't sort of equate, I don't think. Okay, interesting. Can I share with you some examples? Yeah, absolutely, please. We used to have company picnics. We used to have company picnics when we were small enough to fit every employee and his or her family into one yard. And that was on a Saturday. It was not on company time. No one got paid to be there. And they did it willingly. They went willingly, and they shared good times. And that was comradeship. That was camaraderie. They go to each other's weddings. They go to each other's. They go camping and climbing and kayaking with each other. They take vacation trips together, and we have the occasional union
amongst consenting couples here and there. And that's that familial family type support and reinforcement of each other at the personal level, within the context of being members of the same company. And I have to tell you what it does do. It results in trust of each other. It means that people will go the extra mile for each other. It means that they become lifelong friends. We have more alumni friends than we do staff by a factor of 20 or 30, because those relationships that have been built are ongoing. That they've been established and built, and they're ongoing.
So is it, I mean, in your view, is this element of camaraderie? I mean, the examples you gave were kind of extracurricular.
Yes.
But not during work, not 9 to 5, only.
Those were examples that were extracurricular. It's true. In the 9 to 5 context, there's not that much time available for camaraderie to take place.
I disagree with that.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, I mean, just great working relationships. I mean, just if you build trust and you have great relationships, and I think shared interests and passions can be a strong element in some relationships. You know, working together to meet a deadline, to get a proposal out, to bring the pieces of a project together. There are so many times where I've worked so closely with folks at SWA to put the pieces of projects together in a really concerted, focused manner that it doesn't always work seamlessly, but everybody's. It's not that they have skin in the game. That's the wrong phrase. They want to see it. They want to make it happen. They're there. They're not just putting in the hours. We have really kind of committed people, and I think part of that is being professional and doing what they are getting paid for. But part of it is just supporting each other, supporting coworkers.
I agree. That is camaraderie. That counts as camaraderie. I don't think that the excellence, however, does tie in. I mean, anyway, look, we're counting gnats on the back of an elephant here.
Yeah. So, all right. So this will be a stretch, but one thing that I wanted to bring up, and one of the other podcast team folks brought up was I think maybe even during my interview with you quite a while ago, you told me, you give people plenty of rope. If they're interested in something, if they have a passion to do projects, you give them the bandwidth to go out, get clients, get projects, do the work, plenty of leeway to pursue interests, to pursue passions. Based on what you just said, I think you think that's pretty distinct from an element of camaraderie. But I was thinking about it like with this podcast. I had been chewing about putting together a podcast for a year or two, and there was just something in the back of my head. I listened to quite a few podcasts, and some that I really liked, and I know we have some fantastic folks here that could talk very intelligently about some pretty important topics. So I remember, I think it was we, after playing volleyball, we have a company volleyball team, or we had before COVID, and we were grabbing a beer after a volleyball game, and Heather Breslin and Dylan Martello and I don't know who said it, but turns out all of us, and Alex may even have been there. It's like, we should do a podcast. And the other one's like, yes, I've been thinking the same thing for 2 or 3 years. And so this is an idea that maybe came out of comradeship, and it's something that is still going, and that was, we were given the leeway to pursue these interests as a team working together. I think, and who knows what will happen to it in the future, but it seems, I don't know, they don't seem distinct to me. It seems like there's a lot of overlap, at least.
All right. I'm not going to disagree with you. It's even though I do, it's the part that I wanted to focus on in these discussions was the part that was not necessarily a passion for the work, the achieving of excellence in the work. It was the fact that the individuals support each other and nourish each other so that they can continue their professional lives. It's a subtle difference, I guess. If we weren't friends, the company wouldn't survive as well as it has. If we weren't comrades, we wouldn't get work done as well as we do. So yes, yeah. Okay.
Can you give some examples of when comradeship enabled better work, projects getting done, better buildings, bringing work in?
Well, let's talk about the actual evolution of the company ownership. The company has gone through an ownership transition, and I'm going to suggest a few things, but the essence is that the ownership transition that has taken place and is continuing to take place would not be possible without the level of camaraderie that we have in the company. Because without individuals who trust each other and collaborate with each other and support each other, you can't have the shared ownership and transition of ownership in a company. From the get-go, there was trust in the establishment of the shareholders agreement. There was trust in the individuals determining that they wanted to become shareholders and co-shareholders with their colleagues, and there's continuing trust as the ownership and the leadership has changed, has been transferred. Without people supporting each other, trusting each other, collaborating with each other, the transition that is now in place could not have happened, and without it, it would not have succeeded. Look around at our competitors and like-minded companies. So many of them have failed during transition. So many of them have not been able to carry out a transition, and partly it's because the individuals did not trust, or they were not buddies with each other.
So how about, so as far as the longevity, corporate longevity, point taken for companies of kind of our size and type, how about for a camaraderie itself among other companies? Is that something you have any idea of? It's really hard to gauge from outside another company.
Well, we've hired people from Aaron Krantz's office. We know people from many of the companies that we either teamed with or competed with or whatever. And it was clear just in informal discussions that it just wasn't there to the extent that we had it. Okay.
So you've gotten that feedback. We hire people that used to be somewhere and they say, I like the people here better than where I was.
Take a poll around our existing staff. You'll hear it all over again.
Okay. Interesting. So how does that, do you have a feeling for how that relates to like longevity and turnover? Certainly I've been here, again, 21 years. I haven't I haven't switched jobs in a while. But certainly people have come and gone while I've been here. But there's a lot of people that have been here for quite a while.
Yep.
And I don't have an idea of how that compares to other firms, to other companies. Do you have a sense of that?
Our HR guru, Roisin, has looked into it, and apparently our retention rate is not much different than other firms.
Okay.
And it seems that in the early years of their careers, individuals don't really want to stay for a long time at any one company necessarily. They would like to explore what else is out there. What am I missing? And so when people have been here within the first, say, 5 years since after graduating school, a lot of them leave just to explore what's out there. Some come back. But most of the departures have been for individuals either wanting to go to a different part of the country or wanting to explore different types of businesses or different types of professions. Once people have been here a significant period of time, let's say 10 to 15 years, then they're more likely to be like long-term. I don't want to use the word lifers.
I've heard it used. So is that so when you say 10 to 15 years, do you mean they're kind of 10 to 15 years into their career, like 10 to 15 years after graduation?
Yes.
If they join,
and they join or stay for that long or join after that period of time, they tend to say, okay, I found my place in life. This is good.
Okay. Interesting.
And when they do find that place in life, they tend to contribute more. They're building their like long-term nest.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly had quite a few jobs in different fields before I started here. But yeah, not everybody. There's people that have been here 15 years who this is their first job out of college.
Yeah.
It's
well, our CEO for one.
Our exactly. He gets mentioned a couple times. So, switching gears a little bit, we have been doing some work. We've been focusing more on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. And this is thinking about this is pretty new to me. I think it's probably pretty new to a lot of us. I think about thermodynamics all day. I don't think about building community so much. But the focus on deliberately being inclusive and welcoming of everybody into the community, into the workplace community, into camaraderie. We talked a little bit earlier about, when you're interviewing, you try to gauge whether you'd enjoy working with people. But you don't interview everybody, and not everybody certainly makes judgment calls like that or doesn't do it correctly. And how to foster camaraderie when people are here, people you're meeting for the first time who you may or may not have interviewed. Do you have examples of where SWA folks really were kind of deliberately welcoming and effective in new ways, in different ways? Have you done anything along these lines?
No, I have not, Rob. But ever since we've gone through the eye-opening experiences of DEI awareness, and Keisha, the consultant, has been very helpful in making us be aware and be informed. As a result of that, people have become more aware of the differences that different people have in terms of everything: religion, race, background, origin, age, everything, and open their arms to getting to know them much better. So it's being aware of other people's station in life and being accepting of their station in life leads to a stronger, cohesive friendliness that maybe was not quite as strong before.
Yeah, that's it's always a work in progress, I guess. But it's really interesting to me. I mean, it's a whole new way of thinking, and I'm still working on it for sure. So before COVID, I mean, we're a firm with three, now 4 offices, with a fledgling Boston office.
Yes.
And several business groups, eight different groups with different admin groups. Before COVID, how do you think we did as far as kind of bridging offices, bridging geography, bridging groups, so that company-wide there was a sense of community and camaraderie, rather than within the dozen people who you work directly with day to day?
It was always difficult, and those ones who were more remote bore the brunt of it more than others. Like Washington always felt like it was a stepchild. Not that people forgot about Washington, but there were too many things going on in New York and Connecticut that often Washington was the last thing to be addressed. And we did all sorts of things to try to fix it. We tried infusing camaraderie. We had an office meeting that everyone came to, including a social event at the end of the office meeting that people came to. And that was a clear indication of those parties went on for many, many hours, and it was a clear indication that people loved and craved that kind of contact.
Other than kind of I think twice a year, we used to get together twice a year.
Right, and that's all we could do. Everything else was try to visit when you can, try to talk when you can, try to engage in collaboration across the telephone or the computer as often as you can.
Yeah.
But that's the way it happens with multi offices.
Yeah, I found that, and this is something I could do more of, just trying to organize webinars or just meetings or just chat sessions to discuss a topic, and now it's interesting now with COVID. Everybody's remote. Nobody's with anybody.
Yeah.
For the large part. I actually go to the office once or twice a week, but in some ways, I see people on video meetings. I see people from DC more often than I used to, because we're doing video meetings so often, which is...
It's good.
Yeah, I guess it's good. I guess it makes me a little ashamed that I didn't do so much before, but and I guess so. That's another question. I mean, after COVID, what do you see happening after COVID? Have we learned ways to do this better, to bridge divides in our departments or our office locations? Because personally, I think nothing's as good as a face-to-face meeting.
Yep, I agree.
I go to the office once or twice a week. Here we're talking in the early spring of 2021. Things still are certainly not wide open yet. We'll see what happens. But I go into the office a couple times a week, and even if there's only a half a dozen people at the office, just seeing and talking face to face with those half a dozen people is really nice.
I know, it's a contact. It's a contact.
Yeah, and both professionally and just personally. I'll walk down the hall and ask Zola a question about insulation.
Yeah, right.
Rather than Googling it or looking it up. So I guess, do you think that things will change after COVID? Have we learned ways to be I don't know, tie the community together a little bit more?
So just for example, here we are at 125 people, give or take. If in 3 years or 5 years it's 200, 250 people in 4 or 5 offices, get your arms around that. How people are not going to see each other very often. I mean, if we were IBM, people would never see each other. You know, so what everyone seems to hope is that we'll be small enough where we can maintain the camaraderie, the contact, the knowing of each other individually, yet still have the size and the muscle to be able to be a force in the industry and to offer good careers for all the professionals in the company.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, and I thought about that. I thought about this when we were kind of preparing for this conversation. But you know, is a close workplace community? Does it only happen in small companies?
I don't know large companies, but I don't think so. I think the camaraderie is more likely to happen in small companies. In big companies, there's not quite the same amount of loyalty. There's more concern about money, you know, individuals wanting to make more money and not necessarily wanting to be everyone's best friend. And in a smaller company, the camaraderie is more likely to be a good breeding ground.
So it sounds like you're hopeful that the company will grow and that when it grows, it will be able to maintain the community and camaraderie that we have had to date. But you don't know how that's going to happen, what that's going to look like.
That's no longer my job.
Okay.
I'll be there.
I see why you wanted to talk about this topic, Stephen.
No, I'm there to provide moral support and the grey hair and the sense of history, but the dynamics of it has to come from the individuals themselves. We can take that horse to water, but we can't make it drink.
One more quick question. Post-COVID, you know, everybody's been working remotely. A lot of people may want to continue working remotely. Do you have thoughts on that? On what that will do?
Well, that's going to make the social part of it more difficult because there's less opportunity to have a lunch or an after-dinner social hour. But I think people are social animals and they want to get to know their colleagues better. And there's been such great results from the camaraderie that has taken place, and all the different forms of socializing, that I don't see how it won't continue. It'll be more and more disparate groups, but definitely more groups, and you know, it's part of our principle, and so it'll be up to management to make sure that it's enforced.
So that leads me into another thought. You know, I appreciate, I've been with the company long enough that I definitely appreciate the camaraderie. I have very great friends that I've worked with for years. I love the company and I love lots of people here. It's no argument that there has been great camaraderie at SWA. But as we grow, it seems to, you know, it seems to be we're recognizing, we're valuing camaraderie is really important for us. But are we switching into mandating camaraderie? And that seems like that's like, whoa, that's jarring to me. It's like, that's not kind of how it works.
No,
so I know in our not our mission statement, but in our principles, our company principles, it is foster camaraderie. It's not mandate camaraderie.
That's right.
But I could still see it kind of rubbing people the wrong way a little bit. You will be friendly. You will be friends with your colleagues. It's kind of creepy in a way.
I agree with you. If it's forced, or if there's this fake friendliness, then that could turn around and bite us. But I think it requires, probably from the more senior people than the junior people, it requires going a little bit more out of our way to be for example, every new hire, the day they're hired, I send them a personal note thanking them for joining the company, wishing them luck and looking forward to talking, spending time with them. There's also a policy that managers are supposed to have lunch with new hires and junior employees on some sort of frequency basis. And so those are not forced. That's not forced labor. It's just paying attention and reaching out. Reaching out. Some of the group managers have conducted boat tours and picnics and events. It's not they didn't want to do it. It's a fun thing, and they do it and gladly. And it's those kinds of reaching out, potluck lunches, the baking contest which you win every year. They're all small pieces of that puzzle of reaching out to try to accomplish camaraderie.
All right, fostering it, if you will.
Yeah. Is that a Foster's that you're drinking?
No, this is a Bissell Brothers Lux.
I see.
One of my favorite beers.
I see.
It's absolutely delicious. We'll see if that makes a cut in the final podcast audio. Well, this has been great, Stephen. I had a list of topics and questions, and you inspired several others. I think I've gotten through all my list. Do you have any other thoughts on this?
No, I was going to maybe touch on some of the cross-team collaboration that's taken place, but you actually did touch on that. The cross-selling, the multi-team assignments, and that collaboration where these days, and I see all the proposals that go out. I see the lists of them as they go out. I don't read the proposals, but I see who writes them and the amount of money and so on. More and more of those proposals have included sections from multiple teams, 5 or 6 teams, each contributing to a part of that proposal. And that addresses the sort of going for greatness, professional aspect of it, but there's got to be a lot of teamwork and friendship in order to get those proposals to be kind of in sync with each other and to blend with each other, and that's a massive accomplishment by the teams.
That is really encouraging. Yeah, and as you say, that's not that's more professional and business than personal feelings. But this brings us back to where we were a while ago. I think they go together.
Yeah,
I think people sharing passion and interests can reinforce relationships and camaraderie.
Okay.
Certainly not always.
All right, I agree. I give up.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right, mate.
Thank you to Stephen. He mentioned a baking contest that I win every year. That's overstated. I only win cookie contests, and we haven't even had them every year. We've only had a few. I have won all of them, but it hasn't been every year. Maureen is the one to beat on the pie front. And yes, this was a happy hour conversation. We were enjoying a beer during this conversation. Do we always drink during these podcasts? No one can prove that. Buildings and Beyond is produced by Stephen Winter Associates. Our website is swinter.com, swinter.com. Check out swinter.com/podcasts. That's where you can find all the episodes and show notes. And check out our careers page if you are looking for opportunities. We are definitely looking for help. I just looked at our careers page and counted 15 positions. Certainly most, if not all, of our groups are looking for people at this point. Thank you, Stephen. It was a really good conversation. COVID has probably made everyone think about relationships a little bit differently. I have always appreciated my coworkers here at SWA. Really, really fantastic and brilliant people. I'm pretty lucky to be here. But COVID and also this conversation has made me appreciate folks even more. So thanks to all of my colleagues, And a big thanks to the podcast team here. Alex Mirabile, Heather Breslin, Jade Alvarez, Kelly Westby, Dylan Martello, and I'm Rob Aldrich. Thank you again.